Agile should be about small teams, fast feedback, people over process, and don't scale. But we already are more than 20,000 people in the company, and we still need to be agile. So how could we go about to find engagement in our product engineering organization with more than 5,000 people? So I'm Jimmy Sjölund, and I work as Red Hat, and this is how we went about to co-create our new vision for the future. So we don't need corporate goals. Yes, there are those too, but what we need is a vision that people adhere to. And something to feel passionate about, not some corporate platitudes that a small group of top management put together in a ski resort. No, strategic decisions needs to be done and made, but what we need is something else to start working with all the people. What we need is a direction, and take small steps in that direction every day. And we need to be able to keep this up no matter if it's uphill or downhill. And to do that, it needs to be inspirational. I need to feel part of the journey. I need to feel part on why we went on this journey in the first place, if I am to keep it up when things get tough. And they will, they already are. So we face the same market pressures as everybody else in the business. Increased demands, increased competition. We do have agile teams and a great performance in many places, but we could always do more. And we also had a wish from our vice president of software engineering saying that I would want the engineers to come to work or start working in the morning and know exactly and easily to find out what would be the most important thing to work on right now. And then to be able to track that task to team goals, product goals, and even back up to the company's strategy. And at the same time, if we could have the ability for top management to view from a strategy perspective and drill down to task level if they would like to. So total transparency. Enter the open decision framework. It's a flexible, open approach to making decisions. You might not want to use it for every decision because that would rather make it more complicated than supporting, but for decision or changes that involve or affect the people in the organization or our culture, it's a good fit. At Red Hat, we have an old culture of open source principles. We have open emails, open debates, and we share information to be transparent and to get more and better feedback. So this translates into open decisions. And they need to be inclusive, and the people need to have a say in it, especially those that are impacted by the decision. Because they can help influence it. They can identify misconceptions or data gaps and also bring their view into it all. And as with our development, we want to release early and often to get crucial feedback. And then we form communities around this. And that will also automatically build trust into what the decision process is, irrespective of what the actual decision outcome is. And these outcomes also lead to buying to the decision. While it might take longer time than having just one person decide everything, it also creates a possibility for stronger and faster adoption. And what we love about this approach is that the best ideas evolve. You're not going in with a predetermined set of ideas. You could have a rough direction, but it also opens up for someone to have a really far out idea that nobody's thought about because you're not coming from that diverse mindset as the person who mentioned it. Then again, you will never get a perfect decision that 100% of the people agree with, but they have a chance to feel heard, and they might get an understanding of why this decision had to be made. And not only that, you have the possibility to see the requirements, constraints, research approach, and evaluation criteria, and you can discuss it, and you can question it, and you can also complement to it. So there are 4 phases, which doesn't mean they're necessarily linear, but in concept, define, ideate, we define the problem statement in a very concise and clear language. And that is to help us keep focused and also to see that we are solving the right problem. We will also work on identifying who could contribute to the decision and who will take the final responsibility, such if there's a need for funds. So in this particular decision, we had no funds. We couldn't bring in 50 contractors to solve the problem for us. So we scoped that and said that we have to engage the people that we already have. Next is where we do our research. So we engage with organization and we use qualitative and quantitative data gathering and try to pull in as much information as we can. With that, we also want to lower the barriers for participation. So don't set up a call at 9 a.m. Central European time when you have a multinational organization and people that should have joined are actually sleeping. Coming out of the former phase, we go into develop and test. And this is where we have our hypothesis, we have formed some potential decisions, and now we build a community around it. This is the time when they bring their feedback. And as part of that, we acknowledge that and also evaluate it. Thank you for your feedback. We really appreciate your input. And part of that is also to evaluate and explain if your suggestion wasn't feasible, or if we take your suggestion on board, we highlight that change and credit that person. And that makes people see that, oh, I was heard, even if I'm not getting my will. But it also shows the evolution of the documents. And then finally, launch. Show how you are aligned with mission, culture, and strategies. Show how the feedback shaped the decision, but also make sure people know how to provide input after launch. And these 4 phases, they are feedback loops. So if we discover something new, we might want to spin off a follow-up on, or we need to go back to former phases to explore a bit more. So how about that vision then? There was a call for volunteers, and because of the number of people volunteering, we had to make a selection. And the selection criteria we created had to make sure we got a diversity and inclusivity, but also people from different product areas, as well as experience with lean and agile. And this made sure, or should make sure, that we have a diverse team driving this. And they were only driving the decision. They were not making the decision. So their role was to engage with the organization, speak on behalf of their colleagues, and bring those colleagues into the conversation. We have also seen indications and fallout from burnout, so we're putting people very centric to our problem and upcoming solutions, because we want to have that sustainable balance. We managed to meet up face-to-face outside of Boston for 3 days to nail down phase 1. And there we reiterated on the problem statement. We talked about the objectives, what the constraints were, and explored the problem space and setting us up for the coming phases, which we had to do remotely. Then we embarked on a journey of feedback. And we used shared documents as a collaborative mechanism, and people brought their feedback to those documents. And this is statistics only from one version of those documents in the 4 objectives. But you can see it ramps up, it starts to gather interest, people are engaging, and then it starts to ramp down again as people start to be happy about the content. We also facilitated open forums, such as office hours, twice a week to accommodate for different time zones. We engaged one-on-one, we went on team calls and leadership calls to encourage people to participate and collaborate in the documents. And that showed that we got everyone from the intern to the vice president of software engineering actually contributing to the actual documents. And all this molded down to the set of outcomes that we now call version 1.0, which was launched in February. What happened then was that we spun up a new team that is going to evolve from this and also explore the next steps. And we are doing that in a hub and spoke model. And I better be quicker because now time is running out. But what we could see, it was scale-wise, of course, it's a challenge because there are so many people. But we could see that we got engagement from all over the organization. And it turned out to these 4 objectives. We now have a vision and its supporting pillars, but also we could see that everyone was engaged. So tune in next year when I hope to talk about the results we got from this exercise. But in the meantime, do check out the ODF on GitHub and bring your feedback to improve it. Thank you.